I want to mention that Dave gets the details of all the negotiations after the fact. One of the ideas was once New Japan made the announcement of that Tokyo Dome main event with Hashimoto and Shamrock, the parent company of UFC at the time, this predates Dana White and the Fertitta brothers' ownership. Their parent company was called SEG. SEG immediately offers Ken a two-match deal for more than what New Japan was paying, and they wanted it to be against Tank Abbott, and if he won, a title shot against Mark Coleman or whoever the champion was. And their insistence was, we don't have a problem with you wrestling in New Japan. You just can't lose in New Japan. So there's a little bit of leverage there. And it's even speculated that New Japan was offering a great amount of money, quote, more than any foreign wrestler has ever received on a per show basis in Japan, except for Hulk Hogan. But the contract would expire in November. So Ken is looking for more long-term security. And it's written that earlier in the year, I guess this would have been the prior year, maybe, he had asked for a $500,000 guarantee from Vince McMahon, and that didn't happen. It was just a no-go. And remember now, we're in cost-cutting mode. WCW's number one. We're just trying to lose less money in the
Compete.
WWE.
We just want to compete, Conrad. That's the thing about it. Right. Just compete and build that bottom line. And, you know, the $500,000 is never considered. It's just too much. We couldn't do it. We're in a cost-cutting function, and it just was not going to work.
I want to ask, why do you think Japan was offering him more money than any foreign talent ever except Hulk Hogan? I mean, do you believe that? That just blows me away if that's real.
They got him over. The Japanese people got Kenny over, and he was in the catbird seat. He was in the dream spot for all wrestlers, all athletes. You know, he had him by the short hairs, and was very, very popular. I'll say this: the Japanese people did a great job getting him over, and Kenny did a great job getting himself over. He looked the part, he talked the part, he wrestled the part, he fought the part. Everything was there. So that's where I saw that deal. Kenny was a self-made man there. He was the biggest star in all of MMA and mixed martial arts, whatever you want to call it. You know, you die to have, and he was there. So Kenny was just smart. Kenny was trying to figure out a way to make both monies from the Japanese and their side of the deal, and then monies from the wrestling side. I was more interested in the wrestling side. I didn't give a shit about the MMA side, but I knew that it had to be factored in somehow, some way, for this whole thing to work, and for me to get what I wanted out of it, which was a full-time, new, fresh, believable superstar.
What do you think changed Vince's mind? Like, I guess I should ask, first of all, is this true? Do you remember there being, before you landed him here, months prior, was there an initial meeting with Shamrock? He asked for the $500,000 number and Vince passes. Is that the way you remember it?
Yeah, I think so. It was really realistic. We didn't think we had a shot at $500,000 was just out of our price category at that point in time. So, like I said, my job was to get him signed. I did that, and that's where that 3-year deal came into play. So, but we on the talent relations side, we got our deal done. But then the muddy water became prevalent with all this Japanese stuff because they didn't have anybody else ready to his level whatsoever. I mean, they had all their ducks in one order. So it was challenging, to say the least, challenging, because all these cooks started coming into the kitchen, and boy, when that starts happening, it's not a good thing.
talk to me a little bit about submissions. There's a lot written in the Observer about how we're going to have to educate this American pro wrestling audience about submissions. Maybe it can be done. Maybe it'll take some time. You know, I guess the jury is still out because you've had so much quote unquote fantastical over the top pro wrestling. Things
Right.
like a Hulk Hogan finishing sequence. We've all seen it. You know, he's hulking up and here come the punches and the big boot and the leg drop, brother. But now if we're going to incorporate more of a shoot style and a more mixed martial arts approach, that is written about in the Observer like it's going to be a challenge. Now, they did this rather seamlessly because it felt like overnight in wrestling, we went from people quitting verbally and telling the referee, yes, I quit, to we're going to popularize the tap out. And
Right.
tapping out became a big deal in ECW with Taz and here in the WWF with Ken Shamrock. But a few years prior to this, a tap out wasn't even a thing. Did you think that was going to be a particular challenge to get the audience excited about submissions, or did you think it could be done fairly easily?
Oh, I thought it could be done. I wholeheartedly thought it could be done. Now I worked for Bill Watts, and Watts was an shooter. He wrestled at OU. He played football at OU, Oklahoma University, which is where I got this. No, I thought it could be done. It was a part of the wrestling game that had been essentially ignored for many years. Now you go back another generation or two. You know, I've had many conversations with the late great Lou Thez about his short arm scissors. And the reason he used the short arm scissors was because it was a scenario where if you got a guy that was kind of cute in a territory, and let's say Poughkeepsie or wherever, I'm just throwing it out there, then you want that. You got to have a difference maker, and that's what Lou always carried in his bag, so to speak, was a short arm scissor. And because no matter what, Larry Hennig told me this story too. You know, that was, you know, Larry didn't try Lou, and Larry was probably one of the few guys that would have a shot at making this whole scenario work. But Larry was an old timer, smart. This wasn't his style to be a double crosser. But Lou had to have something in his tool bag that he could utilize if the need arose. And so it had been the submissions had been a long part of pro wrestling. It's just that because of the egos of the wrestlers and the fact that many of the bookers were also top stars, they thought it made them look weak if they were to submit. But it has been around forever. Been around forever. You know, Ed Strangler Lewis was one of the great stars of all time, and he had that. You know, he gave Hodge that head that had where if you put it all together, you had a face, and it was all hung together by a car spring, and that's what. Of course, Strangler had issues with his vision, so when they would go to a market to promote, he would go to the media, sports writers. He'd let everybody in the world try it. They couldn't do it. They couldn't make the face. So that's because it had just gone quiet for a while. But I remember going to Denny Hodges' home in Perry, Oklahoma, and he had been gifted the head. So what it was a big car spring that held the two pieces of the head together, and it was a great publicity stunt, one of the best I ever saw. So it was a really cool deal, really a cool deal. But the submissions had just kind of been featured. They've been kind of set aside, but they never went away, especially when it came down to the shoots.